that requires like crazy teamwork, collaboration, making sure that that well-oiled machine is running at a specific, everybody's on the same trajectory, because that's what makes and breaks these guys. If we start to give the consumer this kind of information and give them visibility into where these products are coming from, maybe we won't be influenced as much by just a big shiny billboard or a commercial, but instead we start to look at the quality of the actual product and say, oh wow, this was produced by a craft operator who really gave a shit about the product.
That's why I wear leather sandals and not Nike Airs.
Sure, quality.
You know what I'm saying?
Quality,
They're produced by handcrafted little Mexicans in the jungles of Mexico. Episode of MITA Unshackled with our co-host
Rita Valenzuela.
And we are here. We are thrilled here in Phoenix, Arizona, our home studio, to be joined by Lexis Shontz. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that, but he's the CEO and founder of Solvent Direct, and he's kind of an OG in the cannabis industry. So we're going to learn about his story, his evolution in cannabis as a professional, and how he got to where he is today. We're going to learn a little bit about Solvent Direct, and we're going to learn a lot about extraction. And towards the end, we're going to answer a question that I am trying to understand, is what differentiates one product from the next. So we're going to go through all of that, but let's first start by allowing Lexis, which I love that name because I went to law school, and Lexis you were born, I don't know when Lexus was invented, but you probably get that question all the time. If you want to talk about that, we can talk about that. But tell us about yourself. Where are you from?
I grew up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, just outside. And yes, LexisNexis, I think Lexis is the Latin root is law.
Law.
Yeah.
So your mom named you Law?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where she cooked up the name, but I think the root of Lexis, or the origination, is the word law. That's why the legal database is LexisNexis.
So your name is Law. Do you have a sister named Justice?
I am the law. Yeah.
Do you have a brother named Crime?
I got a brother named Hunter.
Hunter.
But Crime would be cool, yeah.
Yeah, I like it. They were hippies, right?
Yeah, kind of. Something like that. Eccentric.
That's cool. So you were born, you graduated high school in?
2002 outside Philadelphia. I went to 4 high schools. I had a hard time kind of getting along in the traditional educational system. And in about 2005.
Often is the case in the cannabis industry. We're a bunch of misfits.
Yeah, but that have finally found a fit, right? I mean, we found a groove. and
Absolutely. I was a horrible prosecutor. I would dismiss and suspend, and the police officer would get upset with me.
Right.
What do I do? But sorry, you moved to California.
Yeah, so
right in the middle of things, 2000.
Yeah, it was like 2005, 6. A buddy of mine that I grew up with in Philadelphia was the glass blower and the mind behind Illadelph glass, which was the coil bong that you could take the coil off and put in the freezer.
How do you spell Illadelph glass?
ILL, so Illadelph, ADELPH.
Okay, so Google that as we keep going.
Yeah.
So Illadelph glass, go ahead.
Illadelph glass, yeah. And it was the height of Proposition 215 in California. There was a lot of dispensaries popping up around LA. We opened a glass gallery on Melrose Avenue in Hollywood.
215 is the medical California stuff.
Yeah, it was kind of the old school licensing in California. Opened up Illadelph Glass Gallery next to LA Confidential, which was a big dispensary at the time in LA.
How come you didn't go for the dispensary angle? How come you went for the glass angle? Because, you're looking at LA Confidential and you're saying, well, I could open up one of those.
He was thinking nationally. He's like, I don't want to just be in the state. I want to be national.
I think something, first of all, I was a little late for Prop 215, right? Because Prop 215 was 1996. So they were already established, and it's still evolving, but there was already established business. I just happened to grow up with the guy that built Illadelph, right?
Okay.
I'm from Philly. He's from Philly. And so I'd always been around glass blowers. I was in middle school selling bowls and bubblers and things like that. And that's kind of just was my foot in the door. So
excellent. So you opened up the glass shop next to LA Confidential.
Yeah, and we had it was a pretty interesting time. Tom Green, if you guys remember Tom Green, and
Tom Green, the goofy guy.
Yeah, Andy Milanakis. They were always hanging around. We had a DJ booth in the gallery, and we were throwing parties on Melrose Ave. Snoop would come around every once in a while. And people were buying really high-end pipe sets. It was scientific glass-on-glass tech like Roar, right?
Yeah.
But then we started adding artists, some of the bigger glass blowers to it, and some of those sets were going for like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. So it was a real high-end piece. You had a lot of cash flush Proposition 215 industry guys that were coming in, buying a couple for the holidays, So it was that kind of thing.
Philadelphia Glass and LA Confidential still around?
I couldn't even tell you. I think LA Confidential is still there. Philadelphia Glass Gallery is no longer in Los Angeles, but the brand is still around for sure.
Yeah, I haven't followed those. But so after the Philadelphia, we got to get to Solvent Direct. But what happened next?
Sure.
What happened next?
There was.
I used to say that to the jury all the time. And then what happened?
Yeah, right.
What happened next?
So there were a couple of little brief interludes. I ended up in entertainment. A producer came in and ended up putting. If you watch Entourage, Turtle had an Philadelphia pipe in Entourage. That was part of our gallery. I ended up on a couple of random TV shows, but I had always been around the industry. I met a lot of the industry selling those pipes. And if you fast forward a couple of years, everybody was using master cases of butane to open blast, which was a really dangerous application. Those little cans of butane say that they're super high purity. They're not. They're just being shipped over from Korea. But at that time, you started to see butane hash oil popping up on the scene with the open blasting. And through my network, I ended up finding bulk butane. So instead of buying a little can of butane, you could get a 100-pound tank. And that 100-pound tank was a lot more effective. Closed loop systems started popping up. Bogart and some of these other brands were developing closed loop systems to be able to put that butane in and made it a little bit safer. And at the time, it was very difficult for an extractor to be able to get their hands on bulk butane. If you went into an air gas and asked for bulk butane, they'd say, well, what are you using it for? Right? It was too taboo. And I was kind of the guy that was willing to make those deliveries happen.
And you have that look, you're kind of clean cut, let's get our butane from Lexis.
Yeah. And I built
They send me in, they're like, ship him back to Mexico. He's with the cartels. I see they take the white conservative boy from Pennsylvania and push him into the butane place.
I would say that I was able to bridge the gap between the industrial gas guys in Houston that are packaging this stuff and the cannabis extractor.
Our producer knows what I'm talking about.
Good personality.
He hangs with he's the brother over there.
It's more than looks. It's personality. He has a Zen vibe.
Thank you. But the consistent and reliable supply, I think, is something that I built the business on the back of my pickup truck, and it's what we do today. Today we're 23 trucks, 7 locations, servicing 12 states, currently slated to open 3 new locations for 2024.
So you went from back of your pickup truck to 23 trucks.
Yeah, it's been a painful process.
How many years is that?
So I started in gas in 2016.
2016.
And I was part of a couple of other companies that ended up either in bankruptcy or going public. But today, neither of those exist. And in 2018, Solvent Direct was incorporated. And my main goal at the time, obviously consistency and reliability, right? Mm-hmm. An extractor in a manufacturing application needs to have consistent supply to be able to keep that machine running and keep their business operating. So the reliability and consistency is huge. But Solvent Direct was really built on purity standards. Because cannabis manufacturing, cannabis extraction is really an unprecedented application of these products at scale. It's a new thing. There's not a lot of regulation. We know that there's no federal oversight of purity standards used in extract manufacturing. And my goal, my focus was to be able to consistently, reliably supply high purity products that were safe for the extractor and the consumer using the product.
So how many extractors are you working with nationwide? I mean, 12 states, right? You said?
Yeah, we're servicing with next day delivery about 12 states from 7 different distribution centers spread across the U.S.
Damn.
And there are
big time.
Yeah, he's not just looks, he's got brains, dude. Don't judge a book by its cover.
I never said he was good looking. I said he was white. send in the clean cut white guy.
You implied.
No, I'm just saying, all my homies in Santa Ana, we just.
This guy's on a national.
He knows what I'm talking
scale.
about. You don't walk into you send him in to rent the U-Haul. You don't send Juan, and then the shit goes east.
That's why I have U.S. flags on the sleeve of my driver's shirts
I'm
too.
surprised you don't have a veteran hat on.
Can you talk about the importance of safety and compliance? Because that is a huge
issue. 100%. So I think obviously manufacturing cannabis extracts with volatile substances like butane or ethanol, which can be done very safely, not just from an operator standpoint, but also from a consumer standpoint, right? Butane is in PAM cooking spray. It's in lighters. It's used in manufacturing applications. Caffeine in these caffeine drinks is in some cases butane extracted. So it can be done safely, but because of the lack of oversight and regulation, or there's still not a lot of precedent for this application. There's a lot of room for lower purity standards to end up inside of labs. Labs are under a lot of pressure, especially with where the market is right now. It's consolidating, right? A lot of the cottage industries had a tough time in a lot of states, especially California. And so you've got less labs extracting higher volumes of product. And so they're all looking to keep the cogs. Yeah, so there's few.
I'm thinking.
California specifically, there are fewer labs making cannabis extracts today,
right?
But making them at far higher volumes. So the consumer demand is still kind of trending upwards, right? We know that the consumer demand for extracts is up and up, but the way that those consumer extracts are being produced is consolidating and I dare say commoditizing, right? I mean, Coke and Pepsi, Chevron and Shell, when you're selling something at a lower margin, it's all about high volume. And to get shelf space today, a lot of it has to do with your cost, right? The dispensary is just looking for the lowest cost product. That's where you kind of tie in the consumer awareness. How does the consumer identify quality product versus a product that might not be a higher quality, or it was just branding, right? MedMen had all these big red billboards, and there's other brands out there, a blue and white one. And to finish safety and compliance, I think number one, the operators need to learn how to manufacture safely, and they need a lot of resources at their fingertips to handle dangerous products like solvents, right? Ethanol, butane. That's something that we, as a company, we offer tons of resources. We have patent pending compliance technology that gives great visibility in compliance for the fire department, right? And handling those products, as well as the chain of custody of the finished consumer product. So from certificates of analysis on the solvent to the biomass, to the finished extract, having a clean chain of custody is how you can put something on a shelf confidently. We've heard those horror stories of impurities in product. And so that's something that we really strive to not only meet and exceed, working with organizations like ASTM to write standards for safe products, right? What is safe for a cannabis extract solvent, right? What is the right standard for it? We have standards for food manufacturing and beverage manufacturing, but what is it for cannabis, where you're inhaling and you're heating and you're smoking and topically applying and ingesting and all these methods? So that's something that we do really well. Check out our website. You can see, and any one of our clients across the country will tell you, we're constantly working to provide more transparency into the products that we're supplying them, to give them the tools they need to make the best decisions for their brand and for their business.
Okay, so that's good to know. He's always talking about what's best for the patients and consumers, and that's something that I see a trend with Solvent Direct. So would you say that's probably one of the biggest reasons why you guys have blown up so much, is because you've geared it towards that?
Yeah, I think our clients are typically the guys striving to make the best quality product on the shelf, right? And so they know that if they have clean inputs, shit in, shit out, right? Purity in, purity out. If you're working with high purity inputs, you can then manufacture a higher quality product. And I think that's what the extractors want. Manufacturers want shelf space. They want consumers to like and desire their product. And so if they can create something that's desirable, they're going to move more product for their business.
So to that end, you got involved with ASTM, which I'm familiar with, and I have no disrespect for ASTM. I like what they're doing. It's a necessary thing. They're worldwide standardization of everything.
Right.
To me, it's an absolute nightmare because I'm like a radical libertarian. But I understand the consumer safety because you want to know what the hell's in those extracts.
Yeah.
I mean, you have no idea.
Yeah.
So what's going on with ASTM? How did you arrive with them, and what are you doing with them?
Yeah, I stumbled across it. I don't have a chemical engineering background or a background in compliance, right? I'm a cannabis guy that kind of fell in love with the industry and in being of service to it. But ASTM came up. I think the origination's important. They were standardizing the steel used in rail for trains 125 years ago. At that time, we were using different types of steel. Train would fly off the tracks, and boom. So they came together and said, as industry experts and scientists and whatever, we're gonna determine this is the right steel to use for this train track, and that's gonna keep everybody safe and the trains on the track.
I get it has to be that way, but it takes a lot of excitement out of life, that randomness.
Right.
I'm just saying.
A derailment every once in a while
at
keeps
this
it
point in my
spicy.
life, I see the progression towards the Borg.
Right.
Eventually, everything's going to be safe. Everything's going to be taken care of. Everything's going to be perfect.
Sure.
There's going to be standards, and we might as well be the Borg.
Sure.
From Star Trek.
Yeah, right.
Or even Neo in the Matrix, if you want another model. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. This is 50,000 years out.
Right,
I told this to my mom, and she said, no, it's 5 years out. I'm like, Mom, stop.
AI could change all this real quick.
I'm like, no, Mom, let's be reasonable. It's 50,000 years from now, but it's this trend.
Right.
And I see as ASTM, no disrespect for ASTM, I understand that most people live in reality that I don't, and they want safety and predictability.
Safety.
Right.
She wants safety. She wants consumer.
I'm gonna have kids someday. I don't want them.
I just don't care.
I think it's sustainability, right?
Yeah.
Because you're right. If a
balance.
brand throws a product out on the shelf, and the state regulator or even the federal regulator doesn't catch that there's some impurity in there that could, God forbid, harm reproductive harm, right? That's like a big issue. They miss it, but ASTM might be able to catch that because people are in there, So D37 is the cannabis subcommittee at ASTM.
I like to live dangerously. But yeah.
You like
ASTM.
the spice of life.
No, you're the good guy. I appreciate it. The ASTM and they're well intended. They're doing good stuff. They made the railroad safe, and now they're making extract safe.
Sure, and all cannabis. They're determining how long a pre-roll should burn after the smoker stops inhaling, because when the apartment complex burns down, the insurance companies are going to be looking to say, well, was the cannabis brand responsible because the pre-roll burned for too long, just like the cigarette companies. So this really starts to play into liability and things. And I'm not the good. I was kicked out of 4 high schools, right? I'm a snowboarding, skateboarding.
I'm about to get kicked out of Earth.
Yeah. And that's part of it, but I do see in honor and in reverence to all of the people that have come before us that don't have this opportunity to bring cannabis to the masses, to do it right. Jack Daniels and Jim Beam were in the woods at one point doing things they weren't supposed to be doing, right? And
Those are the good old days.
Yeah, I mean, that was happening. And we're at another pivotal point in history where you've got people producing consumer goods. There's demand for those consumer goods. And I want to be the best support mechanism I can be, and our team. I mean, I have a committed team of people that are all on the same page. We want to deliver products that are going to build sustainable businesses and keep consumers safe, but at the same time open them up to the wonders of this plant, right? The peace, the relief, the medicine, the nutrition, the good times, whatever it might be.
This also then in turn helps with innovation, right?
Sure. Right. Yeah.
So there's better products now. There's more competition because everyone's wanting the most purest
Right.
product. So
Right.
that then helps, obviously the consumers, as we mentioned.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like what you guys are doing, and it's interesting your story from doing acting, modeling, getting kicked out of high schools to now having one of the leading companies
Thank you.
in the cannabis industry.
But so consumers, how many consumers out there they're not aware of people using Solvent Direct products.
Yeah, not really. Not really. And I think that's like the key here for any cannabis brand right now is shelf space, right? They want to be able to move their product. That's what keeps their lights going and their business is growing. And so no, I don't think any consumer is walking into a dispensary saying, I only want extracts produced with Solvent Direct. But the sustainability, the longevity of a brand.
Yeah.
Because benzene hits a brand in San Francisco, happened a couple years ago. There was benzene in the extract. It ended up on a shelf, hit the headlines. The company's gone.
No, this is great because as people watching this, industry people, extractors say, this is a big extraction theme, they're going to be like, okay, I'm getting my butane. I'm ordering it, but now I want to get it from this guy because he knows he's an OG. He knows his way around. He knows the ins and out. He's involved with the safety. He's involved with a lot of different intelligence. I'm not just buying it from Korea now.
Right.
I'm buying it from this guy who's like a free consultant, along with the fact that I get my butane, et cetera, from him.
When we think about like health, just cancer and just things, bad chemicals. I mean, just more on that scale. The fact that you're fixing and you're addressing that issue with your company is big because you don't want random,
impurities. The transparency is the key. I'm not necessarily an expert chemical engineer. It's just providing the data to the consumer, my clients, so that they have those resources available. Every cylinder of butane has a certificate of analysis from us. You can type in your serial number from your tank and have those COAs right off our website. A lot of companies just kind of photocopy stuff and maybe they give you a COA, maybe they don't. Cleaning cylinders before every refill. To maintain a clean chain of custody, you got to maintain the container, right? Just because the coffee's clean.
That's what happened to our producer. He blew himself up once.
Oh my God.
I'm just kidding. 4 times.
Having transparency, having the data, having the information at their fingertips so that the extractors can have that information. But I think to the consumer, right, like to the person that's actually buying an extracted product, the ability to differentiate what to pull off that shelf. And it's such an interesting thing. I was at an extraction class here in Phoenix this weekend at a great lab, over near Glendale, I think. And somebody brought up blue diamonds, right? Blue diamonds was like this phenomenon a year or two ago where somebody had made THCA diamonds that were blue. And it was kind of this interesting moment because nobody buys wine based on color. The bottles are tinted in a lot of cases. You can't even see because they're protecting the tannins inside the bottle. What makes a brand more desirable, or one bottle of wine worth $10 and another worth $1,000 or $10,000 or whatever those fancy wines go for, is really quality. And how do they determine quality? It has more to do with nose and taste, not something that's visual. And I think the same applies for this plant-based product. It's like, well, how does the consumer differentiate? And I think there's just a lot of room for more consumer awareness, more consumer education to show them the nuance between a quality extract and something that's might be boof, that had a big billboard, right? Because that's what we see.
Yeah.
I wonder if I put enough cannabis in a tub and I jumped up and down long enough, if I could extract oil that way.
Yeah, like grapes.
Yeah.
Well, you're bringing up wine. I'm thinking, how can I make this a really, 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 really pure process?
Right.
Maybe put in some water and just jump up and down.
Right.
Well, I'm thinking of that one commercial of cranberry juice.
Sure. Yeah. Cranberry. Yeah.
Does that happen? Is that what? I
don't think jumping, but I think if you're handling plants, right, you get the resin on your hands and you can shake out some hash from
ancient times.
Yeah, right.
Socrates.
The catch is it's not as effective, right? A chemical-based extraction is far more effective at extracting not only as much as possible from that plant material, but also specific cannabinoids or specific elements from that plant that you want for that product that you're going to put on the shelf.
I love it.
The more effectively you can extract the right thing, the faster you can get to the retail shelf.
Right.
You could put it in a blender and blend it all up and then try to separate things out.
This is why you do business with him and not me. Because I'm listening to you and I'm like, so it's an efficiency game, like the jerk. Remember the jerk?
Yeah.
He's like, it's a profit thing.
It's a cost. It's a cost.
This is what you know what you're doing.
You're about transparency and safety and compliance.
Thank you. And I don't know this stuff. I mean, it's that my clients.
You look good sitting next to me, bro.
My clients, the people that we service, the people that are making your extracted product are some of the most fascinating outlaw chemist, entrepreneurial alchemists. I mean, they're literally developing this technology. 10 years ago, they were developing it very much behind closed doors because it was hardly legal, right?
Like, well, they still don't get out much.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, last night we delivered to a guy at 7 o'clock at night who was in the lab just cranking. Because a lot of them are running 2 shifts a day, 3 shifts a day.
Right.
The more that machine runs, the lower your cost of goods, the more shelf space you're going to get because the dispensary wants cheap.
It's good to see a human.
Yeah, it is. But what's really cool is there's like this exciting vibe inside of labs and extraction. I imagine this is what like gold mining was 100 years ago in the foothills of the mountains, right? I mean, it's an electric time. It's just an electric time to be alive. Jack Daniels and Jim Beam, right? This is this pivotal moment in history where brands have an opportunity to sell as much product as possible to create consumer demand for their product, which could drive the next Coke or the next Pepsi. I mean, it's like that's where we are right now. And so you have a lot of passionate people in these labs in what can be a dangerous situation if you've got the right compliance in place and you've got a C1D1 enclosure, right? The right ventilation for the room and fireproof and explosion-proof systems, you can do it safely. But it's like a race. It's a big measuring stick in the business is how many pounds per day, right? Some guys can pump out 5 pounds a shift. Some guys are pumping out 5,000 pounds a shift. And so who the scale of the industry right now is really exciting because it's the larger the scale, the lower the cost. The consumer wants the lowest cost right now. I do think there's room for craft extracts to really make a name for themselves. And that's where the consumers, if we start to educate them more on what makes a craft product, they might walk into that dispensary and go, no, I don't just want the cheap thing. I want that quality thing, right? And that's what the wine buyers are doing it up in Sonoma, right now, right? They're or Napa Valley. They're literally, there's a sommelier behind a bar with his pinky up talking about the nuance of that product, from the soil the grapes were grown in to who stepped on them, how they stepped on them, when they stepped on. All of that is what
I'll be stepping on your cannabis soon.
I think there could be a brand here. The foot extracts or something.
I'm indigenous, man.
I'm here for it.
Right.
You ever?
It's kind of like the Japanese motto, the way they market. It's based on like the quality of product.
Sure.
I mean, that's why people they don't spend so much on their marketing, getting their name out there. It's like it's just word of mouth.
Right.
This product's really well.
People recognize the quality, yeah. And we are, unfortunately, in this country, we're just like, McDonald's, right? Or the Coca-Cola billboard, buy Coke. But it is cool to see craft extracts create demand, right? Limited batch runs and things that aren't just, everywhere, but they're more... They're desired by the consumers.
You ever ship any butane to Mexico? I'm just kidding. Don't answer that. No
comment.
Come on, my homie's got labs all over Mexico now. Well, it's not important. I mean, we are a tax and regulate model. It's all good. Just really, because as I'm listening to this, I'm thinking to myself, you have such tremendous experience with all these labs. You get to see so many things that other people don't necessarily see. Any exciting stories? Like, my God, there's this lab in Utah that's 80,000 square feet.
There's
this lab in Pennsylvania blew up and nobody knows. I mean, any like
the blowing up. Please, guys, keep it safe out there. I just toured last week outside of Oklahoma City. We're probably going to release some content on this. 400 acres of THC farmed outdoor. One of the biggest labs I've seen. The fence, I pulled up to the facility. The state of Oklahoma required an 8-foot fence with barbed wire. Of course, $500,000 fence just to surround this property. No other crop has a barbed wire fence.
Right.
But cannabis has to have a barbed wire fence.
Right. Or avocados in Michoacan. It's okay. Go ahead.
Right. It's
people are gonna think I'm like tight with the cartels out there, but
I think the exciting stuff is the scale, right?
400 acres.
Yeah, I mean that's what's really impressive right now. Are the businesses that are finding ways to scale up production of quality product, but doing it at scale to be able to really penetrate.
And they're extracting there on site.
Yeah, 100%.
How big is that extraction center?
Big. I mean, it's a small extractor that could fit in the size of a shipping container,
right?
Can produce a lot of extract, right? Especially if you're running 3 shifts a day, right?
Right.
If you're producing, so it's not a huge. You're not talking about something that it's not like a massive thing, but the scale of the numbers. That's where you go, oh, wait a second, these guys are really running a tight operation, and that requires like crazy teamwork, collaboration, making sure that well-oiled machine is running at a specific, everybody's on the same trajectory, because that's what makes and breaks these guys.
I mean, if you're in the extraction business, you are like a gold mine of information.
Yeah, I get it from my clients.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know this stuff.
I don't get it from your clients, though.
It's like, I'm a businessman.
Well, and that's where
You're taking it in.
That's where I'm really appreciative to have this opportunity, because you guys have a great audience.
I can introduce you to people.
But if we start to give the consumer this kind of information and give them visibility into where these products are coming from, maybe we won't be influenced as much by just a big shiny billboard or a commercial, but instead we start to look at the quality of the actual product and say, oh, wow, this was produced by a craft operator who really gave a shit about the product.
That's why I wear leather sandals and not Nike Airs.
Sure, quality.
You know what I'm saying?
Quality,
They're produced by handcrafted little Mexicans in the jungles of Mexico.
They probably last a hell of a lot longer than some Nikes that fall apart. I mean, quality matters, and I think that's something that we hashtag on our socials and stuff like that. Quality does matter, and I think that as the industry continues to expand and consolidate at the same time, right? It's fewer operators producing more extracts. The consumer is going to continue to get visibility into what they like to taste, what they like to smell, what they like to feel, and that will start to inform what they ask for when they're at the shop. And the herd's going to thin. It's going to continue. I think the players that are putting out just crap because the shareholders want crap, right? That's the lowest cost, highest profit. I think we're going to start to see that change a little bit. I hope.
Anything that you've seen, like regarding brands or extraction equipment, that you're like, wow, this is just next level stuff, next level activity?
Every 6 months. Every 6 months, these guys are so innovative, whether it's that they're innovating scalability, right, or they're innovating the products that are being produced. If you haven't seen THCA diamonds, I mean, there's diamonds that are the size of a baseball. Right. Like, people are producing these crazy extracts. They're crystal clear diamonds of cannabis, and so I think it's.
Can you bring us one back next time?
I'll check out our Instagram page. You'll see them, but I think it's right now. It's giving the consumer what they want. And giving the consumer something that is desired, because that's what's going to then influence buying patterns and support good business and let the bad businesses kind of fall off. But the innovation of extraction is wild. It's alchemy. It's literally chemists in labs at night, producing and innovating and doing research and development. Nobody's reinventing the whiskey distillation wheel, right? Yeah. Whiskey is distilled. The highest and best way to distill whiskey is pretty standardized.
Well, maybe they should. I mean, maybe.
Yeah. Extractors are on that cutting edge, and I think what we're seeing in some cases is the psilocybin, right? That's the next extract, right? Is pulling the psilocybin from.
Could you help me open up an extraction lab in Colombia with all the knowledge that you have? We could take it down there.
This is wild. So we have clients there.
Oh, you do? See, I knew he was exporting to Mexico and Colombia.
I can tell you, there's just a class this past weekend with a really talented extractor that was teaching in Bogota how to extract.
Right.
But I can tell you, there's on the low. I've got access to 6 licenses down there that are up for grabs: cultivation, extraction.
Well, they have they've got that figured out, but they don't have the consumer point. Yeah,
export is
and all
the
that.
big issue. The big roadblock bottleneck for South American product is getting it into markets. Germany, for instance, has a huge medical program, and there's not a lot of production there. So Germany is importing a lot of extracts. That's why you're seeing GMP, back to safety and compliance. GMP standards in a manufacturing facility are really important, especially if you want to export to Europe. So EU GMP. If your facility meets that, up in Oregon, there's a great hemp operator, Danielle. She runs Laurel Crest, and they just got their GMP, right? So they're stepping up their compliance so that they can have a wider market to distribute to. Hemp CBD product,
Yeah,
obviously.
I'm well connected in Germany in the cannabis space.
I mean, if you guys need any plugs on extractors, I got a few of them here that we could put you in touch with.
Yeah, no, I'm here for it. But and just to close off, because we're running short on time, what's the best advice you'd give young entrepreneurs? Because you've been thriving. You're only 39.
Use every struggle and challenging situation as an opportunity to learn, right? Don't get down on yourself because you effed something up. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse here, but don't get down on yourself. Learn from it. Every time I hit my head against the wall, it's just another opportunity to improve and try to prevent that from happening again the next day. That's something that it's like a religion at this point for me.
So
like
you win or you learn.
Yeah, right. You said win or learn.
Win or you learn.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's you have to, because if you get down on yourself, you'll never get anywhere, right? You just gotta keep going.
So how do people learn? Just really, I want to touch on ASTM real quickly. How do people learn more about ASTM?
Yeah, 100%. So first of all,
the bottom line is that's the future. My Blade Runner reality is not the future.
I mean, you can go to ASTM.org. Our blog has a ton of information about it because we're getting more and more involved. We just did a scholarship program. We handed out 4 ASTM memberships to extractors that were interested in becoming a part of it, because ASTM is encouraging people to join D37 for cannabis.
Yeah.
Most committees within ASTM, there's not a lot of new innovation, right? Nobody's going to reinvent the rail for trains. But when it comes to cannabis, it's like uncharted territory. So there's tons of room to get involved, vote, write standards, present standards, get involved with it, so that we can keep people safe and keep consumer goods where they need to be. But
I went to one ASTM meeting.
Yeah,
Just didn't fit in.
Was it on cannabis?
I took off my it was.
Oh, okay.
I took off my shoes. I threw out a tub. I put a bunch of cannabis, and I started jumping up and down. I said, "How are you going to regulate this, motherfuckers?"
Right. They're trying to
Just
find.
kidding.
They're trying.
I'm the past. He's the future. It's okay.
They're finding their way, and just DM us at Solvent Direct on Instagram, or hit our website, and we'll make an introduction. It's free if you just want to listen in on what's being written at ASTM to keep cannabis products safe.
Yeah.
But if we can get you involved for sure.
Well, you don't have to be involved, but you are, which says something about your ethos, your company, what you're doing. You're looking to the future. You're doing all the right things. I'm really impressed. I'm just getting to know you right now. I'm really impressed. You make me want to get into the extraction business,
I think we are at a unique, pivotal point in history where we get to bring, just like Jim Beam and Jack Daniels, we get to bring these products to the masses.
Right.
There were a lot of people before us, as you know, as a prosecutor, that would never got to see this opportunity. Former prosecutor. I feel that I have an obligation or a duty to do my best for all of the people that didn't get to this point, right? And a lot of my friends are never got to see this, and so for that reason, I think bringing responsible, ethical, quality products to consumers is something that I have a duty to do, and Solvent Direct just happens to be my
vehicle.
Yeah, it's like, I wasn't passionate about this. I'm passionate about the plant, and I'm passionate about the peace and relief it can bring to a user, but whether it's for recreation or for medicine or for nutritional value, whatever it might be.
And that's one of the cool things about the cannabis industry is, you could just be involved in extraction and butane, but it makes you reflect on a lot of things, a lot of societal questions, a lot of policy questions. That if you were in the restaurant business, what's the supply chain look like? What's the industry? What's the standards?
Right.
What's the culture? How does it exist? How has it existed? How will it exist absent some very, very subtle changes?
Right.
And you just accept it and you go. In the cannabis industry, you have to pivot. You have to be prepared because it's all going to change. It's all going to keep changing. But man, it has been a thrill getting to know you.
Yeah, thank you.
And you're going to be successful for many, many, many decades. So
setting the standard for the future generation.
Everybody should work with you.
I'm trying. I appreciate that, and we'd be happy to work with anybody that's interested.
No, I mean, I'm thinking you should be part of everybody's team. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Your internal knowledge of the extraction world and all these labs and stuff, you're not just Solvent Direct. You are a consultant But they kind of they take that from you as they buy from you, which is a great model.
Yeah, and we learn from each other. I mean, and that's where I encourage the consumers to ask the bud tender, where did this come from? Who made it?
Yeah,
How did they make it? I agree they don't now, but if there's consumers out there listening, look into that, because there are some really interesting, fascinating, talented people producing products that they really give a shit about.
Right.
They use themselves. Right. Some of these corporate things, maybe they're not actually. There's these craft guys out there that are innovating and developing some of the best product out there, and I learn from them. I mean, I'm just a vehicle, a service trucking company. I mean, that's what I do. I just run trucks, basically.
So those little vape pens that you see on Craigslist that says "Hecho in Mexico," don't buy those. I'm just kidding. I know nothing about that.
Be a connoisseur.
Right.
Well, look, you're welcome. Come be part of MITA anytime.
Yeah.
We do a lot of stuff around the country, around the world. It's going to be fun watching you evolve and grow and grow. So thank you for making a stop here in Phoenix, and thank you for this podcast. It's been extremely educational for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rita?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It's been awesome, and keep up the good work. I went to one of your monthly meetups recently. I mean, it's a good time. It's a sesh.
Yeah. No, it's and when you come and have a table there, people will recognize you from this podcast, and they'll want to talk to you. I mean,
cool.
Because if they watch this, they'll be like, "Well, that guy really."
Let's do it, and let's get the consumers, because
Yeah.
I know you guys have both industry at the events, but also consumers come and hang and can smoke.
Because all those bud tenders people don't talk about, they're all freaking consumers.
Right.
That's what's crazy.
Yeah.
They're industry folks, but they're consumers.
Yeah.
And they're the ones, selling to the new patients or
Oh, for sure.
consumers. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So it's important that they know.
Super important.
What's up.
They're the messengers for sure that have the opportunity with the customers.
That would be cool if we had a segment with you at our meetups and where you kind of educate them on what you guys are.
Something tells me I'm.
Some safety and compliance.
I would love to. Tell me when. Sign me up. If people are interested, I mean, it's cool to pull back the curtain and see where these products are being made and how.
What's your website? What's the best way to contact you? LinkedIn, email, text?
Yeah, solventdirect.com. I'm certainly on LinkedIn. At Instagram, we're pretty active on Instagram at Solvent Direct. That's
at Solvent Direct.
Yeah, and just ask for me. Anybody in my team can get a hold of me right away. I'm certainly involved every day in the business, and I look forward to hearing from anybody.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. This has been another episode of MITA Unshackled.